It wasn't just the optics of the president signing this deal with China and phase one and talking trade. And I mean, there was a long lead up. He had guests in the White House that he wanted to recognize. I mean, some of the best known names in the American economy right now in terms of corporations, so on and so forth. But it was that moment where he signed, and Nancy Pelosi, the House Speaker, was reading the 7 managers that will take over the articles of impeachment, carry them over with those representatives from the House, as you mentioned as well, 5 p.m. Eastern today. We'll cover it live here on Fox. Those 2 moments were on the screen at the same time, Chris.
In fact, the signing ceremony seemed to go on for an unusually long period of time, and I was wondering whether someone was, and this was just in my head, I don't have no reason to believe it was true, was sort of hoping that he would outlast the Speaker Pelosi's speech so he could continue, and maybe we would switch back full screen to his signing ceremony and the official business of his administration to kind of put an end stop, a full stop on what the House is doing.
Now, if you've seen or read about Trump's signing ceremony for, quote, phase 1 of his China deal to offset damage that he himself created with his own trade war, you'd understand why Chris Wallace is suggesting that Trump was purposefully prolonging his speech. And by prolonging, I mean it was a rambling stream of consciousness diatribe that any first-year med student would tell you probably isn't the strongest display of mental fitness.
A highway which would have taken 19 to 20 years to get approval, we have it down to 2, and we want to get it down to 1. And if it doesn't work, we're going to say, you don't build it. But you're not going to wait 22 years to find out you can't build the highway. Much better golfer than people would understand. He likes golf. And he's got a hell of a football team. How did they do this year, all right? They're going to be back? But she said, you think we can get fireworks back at Mount Rushmore? Special guy, special friend, great wife, too. His wife actually supported me long before him, but he thinks I don't know that. He made Comey choke during the hearing. He said, did you leak anything to the press? What? Comey choked like a dog, and he was being nice when he said it. You don't hear complaints about the VA anymore, do you notice? We still have to win to get medals, all right? We can't give medals if we don't win. I sign things, and the next night I see them on eBay. They're sold. They're sold for a lot of money. I said, sir, could I have you, would you sign my sneaker? Yes. Then 2 nights later, I see it on eBay selling for $5,000.
Now, the only reason I'd ever give Trump the benefit of the doubt here is that most of his speeches these days are just an onslaught of complaints about light bulbs, about dead birds under windmills, about toilets that don't flush and washing machines that don't work, about how he likes the old iPhones with the buttons better than facial recognition, about saying Merry Christmas in department stores, and liberals wanting to do away with Thanksgiving. His speeches are just the culmination of years of Fox News fear-mongering all mashed together in some incoherent tirade meant to leave people afraid of everyone and everything. It is the epitome of the politics of fear, and it is the only reason that the Republican Party can ever manage to win. And yet still, despite all of that, we know that above all else, Trump values ratings. He wants airtime. Nothing infuriates him more than losing eyeballs to anyone else. And so armed with that knowledge, suddenly the prospect of him artificially prolonging his self-congratulatory speech about the first step of his China deal doesn't seem all that improbable. It's either that or the President of the United States truly believed that talking about his signed sneakers selling for $5,000 on eBay was just that important. But because on the other side of that split screen was Nancy Pelosi naming the impeachment managers and preparing to deliver the articles of impeachment to the Senate, the stakes were that much higher. Because what this means is that despite last-ditch Republican efforts to pretend that Trump technically wasn't impeached because the articles hadn't yet been delivered, that he now officially is. And this is a black mark that will follow him for not only the rest of his life, but forever in American history. Donald Trump is officially the 3rd president of the United States to be impeached. The other point lending itself to the idea that Trump would be driven solely by his ego is that his entire impeachment is the result of it. He was so desperate to win in the next election that he waited not even 24 hours before Robert Mueller was done testifying about his last efforts to coordinate with a foreign power to interfere in the election before his infamous phone call with Ukrainian President Zelensky, wherein he conspired to do it again. He so can't bear the prospect of not winning